Jess,
James, mate,
how are you?
where are you? Are you at home? Are you at work? What are you doing?
I'm on my break at work and we're going to get this podcast done. Are you on your break?
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm on my break.
Good.
I'm working from home. I'm in my PJs. It's all happening
Perfect.
right now.
We've got under 30 minutes to get deep into the topic.
I
Do you
love
want to
it.
introduce the topic this week?
Let's do it. Well, James, I was completely astounded by not only what's happening in Melbourne, what's happening around the world. And this tornado that has just ravaged a number of states in America was just like mind boggling. And then recently,
Absolutely.
they've had a dust storm as well, but we'll get into that. But I was like, what the hell? It's never been done before. Well, it has been done, but I've never seen anything like this before, you know?
It's absolutely insane. Absolutely. Like, I would never want to live in any of those states, especially in like the Tornado Alley, I think they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you never know.
crazy.
You never know.
Absolutely crazy. So I was at work a few weeks back and the storm came and the storm rolled it over and it went black as black and I thought it was going to be the end of the world. And the wind was going crazy and there was a little bit of a what do you call it? A wind, is that a wind tunnel?
Yeah.
Or a wind swirl. Yeah. There was a little bit of one of them, and I was like, oh my God. And then it went. I was like, thank God it disappeared. But I was like, holy crap. Yeah, it's quite crazy how it creates the swirl.
Like
Yeah.
the funnel of like,
Yeah.
I was watching, I don't know whether you've seen it like on TikTok and people are just filming, like they're just like, what's that sound? And they're filming and they're like, quick, everyone, go down to the shelter. Like, can you imagine? Like
Yeah. Did
being
you
in,
also hear the horrible news this week of the children? I think it happened yesterday or the day before. In Tasmania, they were in a jumping castle for the grade 5 graduation, and 4 kids, I think 4 or 5 kids passed away, unfortunately. The
why?
wind got under the jumping castle, lifted it up into the air, and the kids fell to their deaths, which just gets to show you again of just how, like, Mother Nature can be so crazy. Like, wind can have such a huge force,
I agree. It's
and
just had such an impact. And
there
it's
was
kind of
a
insane, actually.
yeah, there was a man in who worked for Amazon and they refused to let him leave, and then the warehouse all went and he died. He
Yeah,
was
I heard
sending
of that.
messages to his partner and they're like, they're not letting us leave, and she's like, are you okay, are you okay? And I was just like, how horrible, that someone's out in the thick of it and you're just sending, messages. I also think it also is like quite crazy in terms of like a lot of these people, like their houses and everything just like completely decimated.
Yeah, it's just you've seen the images, and I'm sure people out there have seen them where it's just like people's livelihoods are just, it's almost like the fires that happen in Melbourne, like all of a sudden, boom, it's just all completely gone. And the families are just devastated. And you're hearing the stories of like, there's been 70 or 80, I think, people that have passed from this. And it's just that thing of like, it just takes me back to those TikTok videos where all of a sudden you hear something, you look, and there's a massive. But they say like when a tornado is coming at you and you don't really notice, like there's like some sort of a phenomenon that when it's coming towards you and you're in the thick of it, you can see something abnormal, but you can't actually see the twister.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like maybe when you're right in the thick of it. I was like, you can just like major wind is happening around you, but when you're right dead set in the middle of it, it's some weird phenomenon. I read that
That's
somewhere.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember the movie Twister?
Yeah. As soon as this kicked off. I remember when growing up, it was what, Jurassic Park, Titanic, Twister, which was an absolute,
and like down into the basement, like
Helen Hunt.
put the door
Yeah.
down. Yeah. Yeah.
You put the door down and it
It's
swings.
iconic. Yeah.
It's just so
Iconic
typical.
movie.
I think
Yeah.
it's the only one that's captured the horror, of like an
Mm.
insane twister.
I remember just being like so scared of them, like from that movie, being like, "Oh no, what if we have a tornado or a twister?" And I know, like, obviously we get cyclones up north here in Australia, like North Queensland, up north of WA, and up north of Darwin. Obviously, the Darwin um, cyclone was a major one in terms of it was New Year's Eve, I think it was. Yeah.
When was that?
It would have been a bit crazy. It's just like you wake up and it's all gone.
It's just nuts. It's just nuts. Like, and on top of that, like sometimes even for tsunamis, people don't have enough time to even put the alarm on or anything of the sort. It's just,
there was an earthquake in Indonesia this week, and they were worried whether there was going to be a tsunami. And lucky,
imagine
there wasn't. Yeah.
I wonder what a tsunami would look like from space, or like a storm in general, like the collection of clouds and
I'm
like
sure
thunder and
that
lightning.
like there would be vision of it,
Yeah, I'm actually quite intrigued.
satellites and stuff.
It's very
I
interesting.
guess it just looks like a big wave, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe you can see it from space, maybe.
maybe not. But yeah, just to like highlight or give some people some facts if they happen to hear about it but not really know what's going on with this tornado. So basically, late Friday and early Saturday across parts of the central and southern areas of the United States, like collapsing buildings, debris everywhere, just obviously, and a death toll could exceed 80. Where they're saying now, like I literally, when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's one tornado just going across. But literally it was like 30 tornadoes. And can you imagine being in the thick of it, looking at different angles? Like I can't.
Sounds like your worst nightmare.
Yeah, and it's like you're either going to live or die. Like it's just, yeah, it's like a worst nightmare indeed. And it just made me think, like, in these moments, even when the earthquake happened here, like, what's the one thing I would grab other than people around me? And for me, it would be my memories, like my photos. And then it made me think, because I've got all of them like behind me in like a cabinet, like in albums, that I should digitally scan them so I can have them on my phone.
100%. That's a really good idea because, we never know what might actually happen to something, the physical copy or something. You can't guarantee it.
It's kind of like insurance. You don't think about it.
Yeah. At least with the cloud, you've actually got something there. Obviously, it could possibly get wiped.
Yeah.
Or hacked, etc. But, put it in a few places.
Yeah, like an external hard drive. I have quite a bit on an external hard drive. And I have iCloud and all of that. You do and Dropbox and I don't know, all of that. But then, and then OneDrive. And then you're just like, I think majority of it, because I went through it when the earthquake happened, is just me taking pictures of food. And I'm just like, my important pictures of my parents growing up and me growing up are not on this. Otherwise, I'll just have
quite interesting, isn't it? How we just take pictures of food or these days instead of actually with the people around us, like, oh, let's like all take a group photo and be done with it.
Yeah. And like mine is also like whenever I park somewhere, I take a picture of the level because I'm that person that's just like, where have I parked? What level? Where's my car? So there's like an actual, I take a picture of the car, then I take a picture of the lift where the number is. And I take a picture of the building just to make sure. So it's all of my pictures that are being backed up are just bloody useless unless I go missing and then you'll know exactly where. Like, but it's just so funny. It's just so when things like these happen, like even like insurance, it made me think like my superannuation and all of it. Like, what are my benefits? What are my disadvantages? It makes you go the extra mile where you get so
Are you
caught up in
covered?
the day.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
covered by this?
Or that,
Yeah.
or if I'm covered only for a little bit, what do I need to do to get to the next step? Like, it's just, there's a lot of things. It's kind of like even probably having like a will. Like, you don't think about it until you're probably, I don't know, 60 or 70, or even then, like, but you just never
Yeah.
know what a day could bring. You never know what a
100%.
day could bring.
Never know. Can you just explain to me a little bit about how like a tornado comes about? Like from my understanding of it, it's the crossing of weather patterns with
They're
each other.
saying now with the climate chart, they see what I wrote in like our Facebook and Instagram page. There was a section there that's arguing that climate change has a big, deal with this as well, where with the rising temperature in the air, that it's just all coming, it's something next level. Like, to have 30
Well,
tornadoes in one is
also
just bizarre.
another question I have is that a lot of the global warming, global climate change models don't account for the role of plastics, plastics in our water, plastics in our oceans, because obviously every minute a truckload of plastic waste is being emptied into our oceans around the world, at least. And we don't actually know if it's worse and the impact of the microplastics in the heating of the oceans. Because you know how hot plastic under
Yeah,
the foot gets quite hot when it's out in the sun.
yeah,
So you've also got to imagine if the oceans are heating up and there's also plastic in it. Plastics are made from fossil fuels,
yeah,
like the oil and stuff. So it's probably going to be heating up as well. Then also the microplastics can float, but they can also sink. So we don't know how much is sitting on the very bottom edge of our, of our oceans. So a lot of this modeling and everything doesn't take into account of that. That's what makes me think that maybe we're more screwed
and we
than
think,
what we're thinking.
because I don't know if you've seen, they do these with the boats. Like, I saw it recently where they collect on the surface and a bit below, but there's only so much that a boat can do. And just that
Yes.
alone, just a tiny bit, the amount of
The
random
biggest thing is that you just need to switch. Like the biggest thing that the world needs to do, like right now as a globe, is just to literally switch off the tap.
yeah,
Like we should be using all the plastic we already have and recycling it to make new credit cards, to make new, you know what I mean? Like
it's
use
kind of like
that.
this also
We've
came up.
already got that resource. It's
Yeah,
like you don't need to produce a new virgin plastic. You can produce recycled plastic. Yeah, there might be some color variation. There might be some differences.
yeah,
Oh well, it's better for the, it's better for the world. We've got this problem. May as well keep using it.
that's the problem, isn't it? And I've recently, because I'm into these podcasts now, never used to be into podcasts, but now I think is the time. And there was this one podcast like explaining about different civilizations that we have lost over time. And because we haven't documented, like, there's a significant amount of like the human race that we have not documented or known. And they were debating how back then that they had the knowledge possibly of plastic, but diverted from that to become some like eco-friendly version for plates and spoons. And but then we lost that due to like, I don't know, who knows, like anything, that diseases that have ravaged and have killed so many. Like, there's the number of things that have happened on this earth are endless, and we don't have knowledge. And we only started like documenting recently, just a couple of thousand years ago. So it's just very interesting how we're just off track, and to get back on track, is it too late or is it not too late, is the big question, you know. But apparently there's 3 different tornadoes, since you asked, and they vary in different forms, of course, along with their size and shape. And It's more like, yeah, like what I said before, like it's a bit of a phenomenon where they can't even explain exactly what compresses and starts a tornado. But in a nutshell, I guess, number one is a supercell tornado. So wedges are generally the biggest and most destructive twisters. They're pretty easy to spot because they're usually as wide as they are tall. Wedges come from supercell tornado storm systems, which also produce similar twisters known as stovepipes, ropes, elephant trunks, or multi-vortex tornadoes. And there's a video here, and it shows like of Oklahoma actually documenting this. And it's just extremely very strong and would likely rate on the higher end of the enchanted Fujita scale. That's number one. Number two is a non-supercell tornado. They are often recognized as land spouts and water spouts, and the weather doesn't have to be horrible for them to form. They are skinnier, sometimes rope-like, and don't last as long as their wedge tornadoes, their cousins, and they tend to be more localized and do less harm. Interesting. And then lastly, we have a tornado-like vortex. So let's begin with, okay. So there is a term here, gust nados. And no, that's not a made-up word. That's what they're called. These are just like spin-ups and that pop up along what's called the gust front of a storm system. Similar to like dust devils, apparently another term, which is like little whirlwinds that whip up dirt on baseball fields and trash like around there in order to like spin up. So it starts from the ground up. Dust devils can form in perfectly sunny skies, and you just get heat. So heat that warms one place may stimulate the spin. Like, what the hell? Water, heat, like, and then one that's just bloody out of its mind destructive. Like the supercell tornado looks insane. Like the other ones look like funnels. Yeah, funnels. And then this one, like the last one I mentioned, the tornado-like vortex one is kind of like, or vortices or something like that, is basically you can see the heat and it's just stimulating and coming up. Where the first one is like massive, it's just gigantic and it's just whipping. But yeah, who would have known? Like, you don't know it's like even tsunamis. No one even heard that word before until it happened. Like probably in Japan and places where it's quite common, but when it hit like Sri Lanka and all those other places, just like, what the hell? And actually reading into these things are bloody scary.
Wow.
And the speeds of like a fire whirl. So the last one I was mentioning, the tornado-like vortices or vortex, can reach speeds of up to 143 mph, 143 miles per hour. That is insane.
Wow. So that's like 210 kilometers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That's scary.
It's mental. It's also mental how like crazy, winds can be, like strong winds.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. Like when it's such a strong wind that you literally feel the winds blowing you.
Yeah. It's kind of like when we had that, it's kind of like on top of that, like they just suffered a dust storm. So less than a week after the swarm of powerful tornadoes devastated 5 US states, a freakish windstorm has brought like a dust bowl conditions and strong gusts to the Great Plains in the Midwest of America.
Wow.
That came afterward. And there's an image, it kind of looks like Armageddon. Like it's just a still town with like this dust thing. Well, that's kind of like what we went through, yeah? Only like a tiny bit of like this. It was unbelievable of being in the office and watching this thing just sweep through, like, and then all of a sudden it cleared. It's just Mother Nature.
Melbourne.
Insane.
Just Melbourne, just like comes in, causes havoc, then goes.
Yeah. and then just buggers off. What's a
No, it's sunny
cyclone?
again.
You get tornadoes and then you get cyclones. So
I
a
just think like
cyclone.
they're different. They're different. Aren't they just different names?
So with apparently not. So it just
Okay.
depends of how they stimulate, what causes the effect,
Oh,
so to
okay.
speak. And because of that, one was heat. So that was like the third one, the vortex I was talking about. This one is
Yeah.
saying like a cyclone is a large scale air mass that rotates around a strong center of low atmospheric pressure, counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere.
Wow.
So cyclones are characterized by inward spiral winds that rotate about a zone of low pressure. That is insane. So it just depends on the type. But either way, if one's coming my way, fuck me.
Yeah. I don't want to be around one.
No.
Could we get a cyclone in Victoria?
Possibility. Victoria. You know, with global warming, I wouldn't be surprised if even one Christmas it's snowing here, you know?
That's true.
Okay, so cyclone reports have happened in Australia dating back to 1970. Nothing about Victoria. Tropical cyclone joined. Okay, when was this? A couple years back, we came into contact with a cyclone and a joint typhoon.
We did.
Yeah.
In
But it has,
Victoria.
yeah.
Hmm.
But nothing like from what we saw in like Kentucky
yeah.
or from what we've seen, but I hope not. I bloody well hope not.
That's mental though.
Yeah. You would have thought.
Yeah.
Jeez. It's just crazy.
So with, you know, like how they call it Tornado Alley, is that because of the heat pressure in the plains? Like what's causing it to be there all the time? Or is it because of the Atlantic and the Pacific meeting?
So the Tornado Alley, the term was first used in 1952. They studied severe weather in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Kansas, right? Oklahoma, South Dakota, Nebraska, and a few other places. Let me just see. Wow, there's a full-on image here. That is insane.
We'll have to include it in the post.
There's nothing that really defines as to why, though.
Yeah.
There's nothing here. They're just saying facts. This happened here, that happened here. There's nothing. You keep talking and I'll just keep going here. Tornado Alley.
Like, but why is it so frequent?
Tornado Alley receives the highest amount of tornadoes because the plains are flat enough to provide for all the necessary ingredients for a tornado. During the summer months, hot air gathers on the plains and creates updrafts. When the warm air hits the cold air, stirs up the thunderstorms, causing rotation. And that's the first stage in a tornado.
That's what I thought, because it's flat plains.
Okay. That's nuts, isn't it? Hills, like you would have thought. Since 1952 onwards, that means there's been changes to climate change even that time. It's kind of like when you see in Antarctica, in the Arctic areas, it's just you can see they take a picture of the before and after, like 100 years ago, this like iceberg, and now it's like completely gone. It's just scary. And like all these lovely little islands like Hawaii or the Maldives or Sri Lanka or any of them. All these little islands will one day be no longer there, and that's so sad.
I think it will be interesting to see what the bushfire season is going to do over the next few years here in Australia.
Every year, isn't
that way
it?
we can really start to see what's going on. I think it's obviously a topic that's like was very interesting, but also a topic that we'll probably dive into more with like climate change. It'd be cool to get some, maybe we can get some people who obviously work in that space and work in the modeling and have a in-depth conversation with someone who does the modeling for what they think is going to be happening in the future.
Yeah, that would be good if we can get some professional advice. Yeah, that would be really good. I'm on that. I'm so on that.
Yeah.
You research and I'll research. We'll find someone because I think people would like to hear and know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, next week is our Christmas, well, pre-Christmas show. I was thinking for the theme, we'll just make it around Christmas.
100%. Like last year, like it
perfect.
feels like last year when we exchanged gifts like, under the Christmas tree and we filmed it.
Yeah,
Very
awesome.
cool.
Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And have a lovely week. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.